Mhm. Hey, this is Nfteve, and I'm here with Jay Bird. He's an artist and crypto person in Australia. How are you doing?
Hello, yeah, no, great. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet everyone, I suppose.
It's morning there, right? It's like a
It's
midday.
just hit 12 o'clock. It's
Oh,
middle
wow.
of the day now. And summer, so
So I
great
saw
place to be.
like somebody had retweeted some of your work, and it was beautiful. It was very like stars and water and nature. And they had I can't remember what the tweet said, but it was somehow you're really connecting in, with the land there in Australia.
Yes, it's probably the Crypto Mo Art Appreciation Society, which um, they've picked me up as an artist lately, which was like so amazing because in the NFT space, I felt a little bit overwhelmed. Like I released a few things on Rareable and got verified with known origin, like probably a year and a half ago or something like that. And then really felt lost in the space because, again, I've gone on a tangent here, but um, as an artist, I felt like everything was PFP, and like if you're not creating a bunch of 10,000 PFPs for people that they can like short-term flip for something better, then you're not doing your job. That was just my interpretation of the situation. Um, and I was kind of put off by that because like the majority of my art in the past was, in real life, and people, from my experience, buy art to just, they like it, they appreciate it, they keep it, they look at it, and that's the end of it. There is no, oh great, I hope I can sell this for 10x next week. And that just deterred me a little bit. Like don't get me wrong, I've dabbled in NFTs, in the PFPs, and I love it all, but it just was off-putting as an artist for me until I came into contact with the Crypto Mo Art Appreciation Society, who, they picked 14 artists, amazing artists from across the world. Luckily, I'm one of them. I'm so fortunate, so grateful. But once joining that community, it was really empowering to speak to not only the artists involved, but the curators, because there actually is a strong community in the NFT space, the crypto space, that actually are there for art, with a long-term vision, not just a quick flip. So they put me right back on track. I love it now, and really excited to get back into it. So anyway, to go back to your initial question about that artwork that I had recently released, it was my Genesis collection. Like I'd done a few things in the past, but this was the first collection that I'd done. I had drawn it up, a while ago, but just never released it because, again, I wasn't feeling confident in the space. And it was, what drew me to it was like, generative art. I'd heard, with all the Fidenzas and, a lot of really good art came out over the last 12 months. So I had a bit of a play with it and created a few pieces. But what I wanted to do was half generative art and half of my own digital art, which is contemporary Aboriginal Australian art. And in my mind, the vision was that this is modern tech being combined with like the world's oldest living peoples. And that's what drew me to it, was this creating this hybrid of those two together. But the work overall, like the message within those artworks, which is pretty common theme in my work, is our connection to country. And like, for people, because there's probably people that aren't Australian that would listen to this, and country is like the earth under your feet, but everything, the life that comes with it, the animals, everything. It encompasses everything is country. And we all have this connection to it, regardless of whether you're from, whether you're Australian, American, Filipino, it doesn't matter. We all have a connection to country in some way. And with that connection to country comes a strong responsibility to maintain it and look after it and respect it, just as it does to us. And that was really where all of this inspiration is drawn from, is my connection to country. And the journey, that the collection is called Journey, and it's just like our journey through life and how country nurtures us and supports us, and we learn to grow up and look after country ourselves. There is like a strong connection there to like the moon and the stars, as well as like the landscape and the sea, which I'm always drawn to, because in my mind, like, especially like in Indigenous culture, there's so many stories based around the stars. And it's always been fascinating to me that no matter where you are on the globe, we see that same moon. So
Yeah.
that's a connection that I can share with you, and that you can share with the person anywhere on the world, on the planet. So I always like to incorporate that in my theme, because as a contemporary, like Aboriginal artist, I want my work to resonate with everyone. You don't have to be Aboriginal to appreciate this work. And like, so there's features within my work that are traditional. There are traditional symbols within that work, but the message is for everyone. And that's,
your work.
yeah, that's sort of what I've always wanted to get across with my work, is that I don't care, no one, it doesn't matter where you're from. It's like we all have this same connection to country. We all go through the same journey.
Right.
Yeah. So that's sort of where it all came from. And often,
sometimes people use like a certain identity as a separation, you know, from others. Like, oh no, we're this, and then everybody else is that, you know. So
yeah, exactly,
exactly.
and
yeah,
we want to bridge that gap. You know, like we are stronger together, and when we're unified as a whole, you know, we're much happier. You know, apart from this, like the separation between people for their differences is not productive, and it's not, you know, it's not the way to move forward in life, in my opinion anyway. You know, I probably have a lot of people who disagree, but this is just my philosophy.
Yeah, I share that opinion.
Yeah, no, it's,
yeah,
you know,
let's
it's
see
good.
your collection. I can't wait to see it. Like, I've just had glimpses of it, but I definitely was relating to the stars. Actually, I could really feel, like, I could feel your connection to the stars. Like, you can really feel it. It really comes through in the work, you know, like,
Yeah.
you
I'm
just
really glad
like
that
a little, you know, my phone, you know, on Twitter, just for a second, this picture, like you could just feel like the vibration of the energy of the
yeah, and that's really like you know, for me, humbling to hear. And I'm always forever so grateful of that my work can connect with anyone, like anyone. Whether someone purchases art or not is like, I do not care. It's, you know, if we can share a connection there, that's what really, it's what it's all come from for me. So yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. Should I share the screen and show my? Okay, I'll now, you know, there could be a technical
error. I'm curious about your generative plus digital art. So for anyone who doesn't know, generative is like AI generated images.
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I see it. Good.
Okay, great. So this is my my OpenSea account, and so one of the pieces is actually already gone from the collection, so I'm not actually sure how to bring that back up. But basically, these lines at the bottom, you can see, I can open one just so you can
it is so beautiful.
Better example of how the artwork. So these lines on all of the pieces represent either you know, the country, and like, so from where I'm living right now in Gumbaynggirr country, the area in particular that I live in is quite, you know, there's lots of hills, like not quite big mountains, but very hilly land. And I am fortunate enough to live in an area where, you know, we actually get a view of this, the sun, the moon and the stars every night. Although anyone who's living in Coffs at the moment would probably agree that we've had rain almost all summer, so there hasn't been a lot of stars, but there are nights where they come out, and you know, that's what inspired a lot of this work. And before living in Gumbaynggirr country, I lived in the Byron Bay area, which is Bundjalung country, and it also has another, like, to be completely honest, like so much of my work when it comes to landscape like this, for example, I am always taken back to Bundjalung country, looking at these for myself. Although I'm not from Bundjalung country, I was born in a town called Nowra, and I'm Wiradjuri, which is a part of Australia that is, west of Sydney and a bit south, and that's where my Indigenous family comes from.
Wow. Did you kind of grow up in an Indigenous or?
So I was, yeah. So like I can like a little bit of an insight into my own personal life was that my father's side of the family is Indigenous Wiradjuri country. My mother's side of the family, white European family. And again, this is going to the backstory of my whole life, which maybe is interesting, maybe it's not. That's another thing. But my father left our family when I was probably like five years old, and like virtually never came back. He had his own demons to battle. Like he had some drug problems, a whole list of things that went on with his own life, and he couldn't cope, I suppose. So I think I saw him last when I was 8. So for my own personal journey, I felt quite disconnected to the Indigenous culture, because the one person in my life who would be teaching me those things actually left. Fortunately, I grew up in an area that has such a strong, proud Aboriginal community, like Yuin country, in Nowra. And so I was always fortunate enough to be surrounded by Indigenous people that I always highly respected, even to this day. I owe those people a lot in my life. And anyway, that's what prompted me when I got a little bit older to do art. That's how I connected back to these things that I really felt that I missed out on, and there was a part of me that really wanted to reconnect with those things. And art was my easiest sort of platform for that to happen. And here we are. It's just gone from strength to strength, not in terms of like selling out all my artwork or anything, but strength to strength from my own personal journey. Very proud of who I am, very proud of where I've come from, very proud of the Indigenous people of Australia. And this is, I owe all of this to them and the people who supported me growing up and taught me everything.
That was beautiful. Like, just so you can really feel like the movement of the water.
Yeah, and that's back to this sort of this collection. The moon and the star. It's really the recurring theme. Moon, like we went through, the stories that have been told under it and everything like that. The land, the country itself, and then the lines often at the bottom, if I open another one, represent the sea. Because again, I'm grown up food. So for me, I've always had a strong connection to the sea, whether it provides, food, a place to be, everything. I'm sure anyone who's coastal or spent time near the ocean knows it has healing powers. And that's another theme that is really consistent within all of my work. Because I have this one piece called The Meeting Place that it's not an NFT, it was actually there's a handmade piece. And the story behind it, actually, I can probably even bring it up, just to give context to what I'm talking about. Let's see if I've got a better picture of it. This is probably
those 8-pointed stars
picture.
And your stars,
yes, but this
oh my God.
I suppose the number of points on the dots on the stars were, to be honest, probably more aesthetic than anything else. But this is the piece that I was talking about called The Meeting Place. I've done a couple of versions of it. And so out here is up this top section. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but basically where the dog is, that's all ocean, all country, like all land. And down here is all the open sea. And this middle section is where the energy of the sea meets country, like the land. And, I'm sure if you've seen waves crashing, it creates that white foam when the waves crash. That's, again, it was the inspiration, but the deeper meaning behind the story was like, when you go to, say, again, I'm assuming that people have the knowledge, but you go to like a point at the beach, like a headland, and like, if the wind is blowing from the north, if you go to the south side, that wind is blocked by the headland, and same the other way. If it's a northerly wind, you hide on the south side. And it was more a representation of our emotional state of like, you can, and our connection to country, that, even in the turbulence of life, we can always find, peace within, as the sort of the metaphoric answer, but also quite literally too, like all the time, if you're someone from the coast, you don't want to go to sit on the south side of the beach in a southerly wind, you'll go to the other side. And that metaphor of has honestly followed me through life, through my own inner workings. I'm sure we've all battled our own demons at one point or another, and our mind has felt turbulent and overwhelming. It's, if you can have a deep enough connection with yourself, you can find those moments of peace and calm, and overcome struggles that I'm sure we all face in one way or another on this world. And anyway, that was just the story of a little bit of a background on that piece.
No, it's a beautiful story. I've never actually heard that metaphor at all, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's just something that in life has, I've had to do a lot of work on myself, I suppose, to get to a point where I can realize that, and the power of our mind, and the difficulty that there really is to actually control that. It is overwhelming. Life can be overwhelming. I've got a lot of, respect for the people who've taken the time to try and improve themselves, because it's not easy. Yeah, sorry, my dog's just in the background.
Oh no, I'm just really looking at this picture. I almost feel like if you really just kind of relax into it, it does start to look like a relief map. Like it start looking very three-dimensional. And
yeah, it gets a bit in real life, because I think it's probably like a meter and a 1.7, 1.8 meters. It's quite big. It's kind of big anyway for me. But after looking, this close to the screen, doing one dot after another, this painting gave me, I don't know, countless headaches, to be honest.
That's amazing.
Because just the contrast gets a bit full on. I didn't have to wear glasses before I started painting, and then after a couple of years of doing it, I need them to paint and to be on the screen from now on.
That's actually very, actually my work, I work mostly on paper, and my work has hardly been seen because it's rolled up under the bed, because it's paper. It's a hard medium to work with. And I do sell it. Like I have a corporate art dealer in Los Angeles that sells it, but a lot of mine is like hundreds of tiny lines. So I was just like, oh, I love this. And then I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, it's,
yeah, you can probably appreciate
yeah, it's like mine isn't that like that, because but there is that element of those repetitive lines. And
yeah,
I used to be a hermit. I used to be like a hermit, and then just like just sit there and draw these lines and put these colors, and it was just so soothing for me. And listen to stories, like I listen to Audible.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's pretty much what I'm in a similar sense.
I think whenever the lockdown started, I was like, okay, I'm an extrovert now. Like I'm done with this. So my pages started selling, right? So finally started making some money, but not for like business anymore. So
now I suppose myself, I'm really like pretty introverted by nature, so it doesn't bother me to be, my life's barely changed being, in Australia we had some pretty, like Melbourne, I don't live in Melbourne, but, that was like the most locked down city on the planet at one point. I think it still has the same record. So we've been locked down for a while, but for me, I was kind of all right with that, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I didn't notice the difference, but I didn't notice the difference.
I'm sure there are people, the more extroverted people, oh man, you'd be hating it. But for me, I don't mind my own company.
Yeah, but the only thing with me is like once they said you have to lock down, I'm like, okay, I don't want to lock down. I'm going to be a social
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I'm so like contrary. I was like, okay, you know, no
That's
more,
that. It's
no
the
more.
being told what to do that that doesn't sit well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Show us something else. Your work is so beautiful.
Oh,
People don't know us
so
in Aboriginal work. Like they should look at it because I haven't seen any for a while, but it's definitely along traditional lines. But you really
yeah, I've taken a more.
but yours is like so much the colors, the patterns.
Yeah, I've gone
like,
really a
yeah,
real contemporary
yeah,
path again. Like, and to be like really brutally honest, that's a lot of the reason why I don't paint really traditional stories is because there are certain people that are only allowed to paint those things. Like not anyone can just go and paint anything. You need to have permission or be the knowledge holder to be able to share those stories. And because my story where I was separated from that part of my life, I was never told those stories. I was never given permission to paint those stories. And the last thing I would ever want to do is upset anyone in the community. So the way I felt that I could still involve myself in the artwork and do my own thing was by telling my own stories. And that's why my work reflects quite differently to the traditional paintings and the artists, because there's so many talented Indigenous artists out there. Like, oh, it's overwhelming. So for example, I don't know how easily you can see this from your screen.
yeah, I can see it.
You can see these symbols. They kind of look like a little U, like a little horseshoe shape. They are the symbols for people. And the way that I got shown about it was like when you sit in the sand and you stand up, you can see kind of a symbol like that. And that's how I was been taught that symbol came about. And the other symbols are either like a spear with the woomera, and also like a digging stick to represent the women. But anyway, this piece was called The Mind, and so again, I always feel a little bit weird talking about myself much. But anyway, this particular piece is called The Mind, and it represents it's all to do with the energy that we all put out onto ourselves, onto those around us, and then from further, you probably walked into a room before where, I don't know, a couple of people have been arguing or something, and there's just a tense energy in that room. I've probably created it before. And you go to other places where there's really calming nature, you feel straight at home. And this piece was sort of just my representation of that, and the energy that we put out there that can impact and influence others really heavily. And a lot of the time subconsciously you don't know, and I to be honest, I'm guilty of someone who probably can put out an energy that maybe it's my problem, I'm not feeling great, but that energy that I'm putting out is then maybe disturbing others around us. And that's kind of where this came from, but also from a community perspective, so it's not just reflecting the energy of myself. It's the energy of a collective. You can go to certain towns and certain communities and get a feel for what's going on. It's intrinsic. It's non-tangible, just an energy, a feeling. And that's basically what that piece was representing. I did another one that was more, again, a lot of these pieces, for example, I prefer myself just straight up black and white. I just like the contrast, but every now and then I use color. That's not the piece I was looking for. It's something like this one, for example. Again, I entitled it Abundance, and this is the energy of just you. This is your story, and your own energy, the way you're feeling. And, you know, this was, I can't, like, to be honest, I actually can't remember what was going on in my life, but it was something so great. I was in just a great space. And that's where this piece came from. You know, the energy around me, I felt like was, you know, strong, positive, something that you would want to be around. And then the other one, I think I did a small one here, which was like almost like the opposite. I called it solitude. I actually gifted this to I gave it to one of my friends, who's another artist who, you know, has really been inspiring for me. And this was like probably around the time of when our first sort of lockdowns came in, COVID really just came into effect, and, you know, there was no work, there was nothing going on, and I just felt like a little bit isolated mentally. And, like, you know, like I said, I don't mind that, but it is a bit hard when you're forced to do it. And again, this was just like, it's not really a negative energy, because, you know, like solitude isn't necessarily a negative thing. It probably depends a lot on your mental state at the time. Like, if you're in a good mood and you're on your own, it's probably pretty good. And if you're in a bad space, like let's say you've had a breakup and you're locked on your own, you know, there's a lot of people who went through a lot of bad things and bad times during the lockdown, and that was really a reflection of that. Because, you know, like a lot of suicide went up during lockdown, a lot of mental health issues, and a lack of support. You know, without going down a political path or anything, but that's what this piece for me was really all about. And also, I wanted to leave it with like a positive twist, is that, you know, you find peace within yourself. Like, really was truly where I came to by the end of that journey. And, you know, so these are, if I just quickly go through like another piece, like, again, you can see like a lot of my work is of like, I follow a similar theme. Just, I don't know, just this is what for me speaks to me. But these lines are like, you know, from a traditional sense, they can mean other things, like, you know, a camp, or like sometimes people can have them to represent watering holes and things like that. For this particular piece, these lines were to represent, you know, our journey through this life. And each one of these, you know, concentric circles was like a defining moment for you in your life, you know, because I feel like throughout life there's a lot of noise, but if I go back through my own memory, there are points that were quite defining for me. And like where I was kind of left with like, okay, am I going to go down the path and, you know, do the wrong thing? Or am I going to, you know, make this other decision? And that's what they represent, just the defining points through my and anyone's journey through life. Like, I want all my work. I find it that I want my artwork to resonate with people with their own story. Like, I don't want people, and there's nothing like, I shouldn't say I don't want, but like, I prefer for people to be able to tell their own stories through my work rather than tell my story through my work.
Yeah,
because I feel like that's
there is
more
like so
inclusive.
much like journey, you know, in your work. Like you were saying
Yeah.
your earlier NFTs, like even if you don't tell me, like there is that feeling of moving from one place to another and traveling.
Yeah,
movement.
and that's totally what it's about. Yeah. And, you know, I feel like, again, I want it to resonate with anyone and everyone. And like, if it doesn't, like, that's cool too. Like, that's art. It's open for interpretation, and, you know, you don't have to like everything. And like, I've made my own artworks that I've like, you know, sometimes you start something, you probably know what it feels like to start a piece and then not be happy with it, and then, you know, you're picking it to pieces the whole way through until maybe like you finish it. Yeah, a bit later on you like it, but it's, you know, you spend a lot of time with that work.
I haven't really made art that much for a while because I've been doing other stuff. I've been building my infrastructure for my future. And like, I've been doing art recently, just like the past couple of weeks, and I forgot like how much like introspection and like self-reflection there is. Like, sometimes it can be so horrible. You're like,
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
forgotten what it's like. You're like, oh, well, I'm below it. And it's like, whoa, you know, you should
Yeah.
chill and try to enjoy it, and who cares, and like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's your classic worst enemy sometimes
oh
in
my
the artwork.
god,
Like, I'm really overly critical of myself
oh, it's
a
horrible.
lot of the time.
Yeah,
But then I always come back to it later on, and my perspective will change. I mean, there's still some pieces out there that I look at and I'm like, oh, what are you doing? But 99% of the time I'll come back and like be able to connect with that piece, just because, like, you know, something like, say, that size, like I would spend so many hours with this piece, just on my own. And so by the end, you know, we've shared a lot of time together. And then I become a bit connected and sentimental towards it. But during the creation, I'm probably there judging it and hating it the whole time. But you know, that's life, isn't it?
yeah. So I had to go actually. Yeah, I don't know if you do like any energy clearing, but at one point I went and I cleared all the energy off of all my old paintings. And you pull a painting out, and you're like, well, also because I hadn't sold any for a while, for a long
Yeah,
time, and I was getting depressed about it. And I was like, oh, you know, like my art just was like reflecting back to me, like, oh, you don't sell anything, and like
yes, and I feel like that's a
nobody likes
hard thing to do
your
to
art,
yourself.
right?
Yeah,
And then not only that, just absorbing all the energy from the house. Like I'm very sensitive to energy, and I went through with every single one. I have like 100 paintings, you know.
wow,
Totally cleared everyone, but it was so amazing. Like if you ever go to do that in your painting, you're gonna all the things like what you were going through at the time when you painted it, all of your feelings. You're like, damn, there's like a lot. I started selling it after
absolutely.
that. Like I went through my whole house and like cleared everything, threw away furniture. Like it was great, you know. And
I'm sure it was probably really nice to go back through, you know, and see what you'd done, and you know, especially if you had 100 pieces. I'm too slow of a painter, you know. Like I've still got pieces backed up there that I just, again, I feel like the artwork, um, for me, this like the selling of the artwork, like I'm always like so stoked and humbled by anyone that ever, you know, would want to part with money in return for a piece of my artwork. But it's not the main motivator, you know, like if nothing sells, like whatever. Like I'm not gonna stop doing it. I'm not gonna like my work less because it doesn't sell, because,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. Well,
I
my
enjoy
work
the
finally,
process.
yeah, my work finally started selling, and like now my painting sells for like $9,000. So thank God, you know, because I
Well,
don't
then
know,
that's right. Yeah.
had I not had that one connection with these one people that like my work, and then they sell it to, you know, corporations or whatever. Before the oh, corporations so evil, but now I'm just like, oh my God, thank God that I can get some money. And
They've probably got the budgets, you know. It's
yeah,
like the
yeah,
average Joe doesn't probably have 9,000 to spend
yeah.
on a painting.
Well,
Like
and
I
they
don't.
yeah, and they have these huge art collections, so it will be preserved and like nicely framed and all that stuff. So like I'm totally
Amazing.
happy about it. But I was like, if that didn't happen to me, I would still maybe like look at my work and be like, oh.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, but that's such great news that you
But yeah, no, but it was like more than like 10 years of like really not
yeah.
selling work.
And like, yeah, you know, that's funny that I was speaking with the Nimbella Gallery, which is in Bangalore near Byron Bay.
Uh,
And I spoke to the curator there, and I was saying like, oh, you know, whatever, you can sell this piece for whatever you want. Like it's an old piece, I don't care. And he sort of made a good point that like, the age of it is actually doesn't, like, that's not a bad thing, because like in my head I was like, oh, that was when I really first
yeah,
started out, and like
yeah,
in my own mind I can see, oh, that's sloppy, that line is, you know, that spacing of that line is uneven anyway. But he made a good point that like, you know, that's all part of the journey of the artist. And like for some people, like if you become you know, if you're a sought after artist, collectors probably want your older work, you know, like when you, and as
yeah.
part of your journey as you grow and you change. And anyway, it was just a good point that he brought up, because I was really critical of my earlier works. And after that, he made that comment, I sort of, it shifted my perspective to, you know, now I like it all. like, you know,
And that
not
those
that I should.
moments can never come again. Like you could never be in that place, you know, in that exploration. And I actually always save my work. I mean, even though I used to have like the worst self-esteem and everything, but I knew my art had a value. I was like, oh, one day it's gonna sell, you know?
And then here you are, and how good to like have waited that all that time, and then, you know,
Yeah.
now all those
Could've
artworks
just-
have all that value.
yeah. There was a few times I was like, I should just throw it all out and start fresh, you know?
Yep, it's a feeling. It's a feeling, but like, you know, there you go. You've been proven that the wait was, you know, it was well worth the wait.
I love your work.
Yeah, well, that's basically like, you know, my Genesis collection
Oh,
that's
what's
underway.
that one on the bottom? That's different.
This very bottom one. So yeah, so this was the last piece of the collection that I actually did.
Wow.
And again,
Wow, that was
it's
so good.
it goes back to like that. I think it might have been the one I had open, like similar to this journey, like except these mountains on this one actually were generative art. So these were created by code. And then the lines are hand drawn, and then this is drawn in. And again, it's that same story of our journey through life. And like for me,
Wow.
you know, a lot of mine have the mountain and the sea because like I've always only lived there. Like even like I grew up in a town called Nowra, which was probably like, for me at the time, I felt like, oh man, I'm miles from the sea, which it kind of is. Like it's probably 20 minutes, 15 minutes to the beach.
Oh my God. As far as you live.
Which, you know, like is probably nothing for a lot of people. But when you live, you know, when I've got friends who wake up before school and go for a surf, just walk to the beach, I feel like I'm an eternity away. So then I live close to this place called Campbell Mountain, and it's just a ridge that, you know, really beautiful place as well. So
It is.
I've just been fortunate to grow up in those areas.
Yeah. Your work, the blackness is so black. You know, you really feel that sense of space, like of the whole universe. Like you really feel that in your work. And then
again,
the light is so light. Like you really have that feeling of like.
Yeah, it took me a long time to appreciate negative space. You know, like for a long time, again, if I go back to when I first started, like you'll see there's no negative space. Like I filled every section because I felt like value comes from the amount of work you do, like literally the hours, but it's like, that's actually not the case.
Yeah.
Negative space is really, really powerful. And like, it took me a long time to figure it out. And a lot of people like my partner, you know, brought that to my attention.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I learned to appreciate it. And now, like, I see lots of artists, like there's this artist called Kate. Anyway, she's another Indigenous artist. And she uses a lot of negative space. And like, I love it. It looks so powerful.
Yeah, it's so
So I'm trying to become more comfortable with using it. But you know,
it's very powerful. And this piece, my work has a lot of negative space too. And it's even like, so I am also a dancer, and like I'll notice like people when they go to dance, they want to just like put in all their moves, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, the hard thing to do is slow it down and just like take a little moment, like ding, you know, and
not use all your moves at once.
Yeah, well, you're just doing all your moves, like you're burning everyone out, like 45 seconds, you're like, you know, but
I'm a horrible dancer anyway, so
the drama of the quiet, like I think that's maybe why your work is so beautiful, because there's a lot of lines, you know, and then there's that quiet, like
yeah, I suppose it's like that, the appreciating the beauty between what's going on, you know, like the gaps between the noise is beautiful. Like, you know, it's something that some artists can harness so well, and like their artwork is so minimalist. There's this guy Phil, he doesn't do NFTs or anything. Anyway, I'll never be able to remember his last name, but he has so much negative space in his artwork. So good. Yeah. Another Indigenous artist, you know, like there's just so many Indigenous artists that, you know, probably deserve this spotlight and much more than I do. Like, and I'd love to see a movement of more of these talented artists enter the NFT space, because
they'll be coming.
and I believe they will, because like there's so much opportunity here, and the old school way of moving art is like, either you're selling it yourself, like, maybe you're using social media, maybe you're using Instagram, maybe you've got it in an art gallery, and like that's just one place, like one art, or maybe whatever, you're in 10 art galleries, it's still just 10 shops that people have to go into to buy art. Whereas on the blockchain, in the crypto space, you might sell your art to someone in, wherever, India, the States, Russia, you don't know, like, and they can all have the opportunity to see it on these marketplaces, whether it be OpenSea, Known Origin, Rarible, like there's lots of them. And that's another really cool thing, is that it empowers the artists. And to go all the way back to the beginning, to the Crypto Mo Art Appreciation Society, that's really what they're
What's it
doing.
called? The crypto what? The crypto
Crypto Mo, like the Crypto Mo Art Appreciation Society.
Crypto Mo art.
Yeah, Crypto Mo. They're just actually about to launch.
It's like it's a new curated space.
It's these guys. Am I still showing my screen? Like, can you see my screen?
Yeah. Crypto.
Yeah, it's these guys. The Crypto Art Appreciation Society.
Yeah.
They are definitely like they're launching very soon. And they're just like so supportive of artists, and like actual artists, one-of-one artists, and giving those artists an opportunity. Like here's I don't know where I can best show you a list of all their artists, but if you get a chance to check out the Crypto Art Appreciation Society, like they used to be called Crypto Mo's, but like, and you mentioned, like, you could, like, you sort of don't mind finding like the odd like gems kind of thing, like unknown artists and things like that.
I love hidden gems.
These guys are gonna
there are so
I
many.
think that's what they're.
You know what? I like your work. You got to watch this guy. His name's Afro Spirit Art, and I guess that your work has a connection with his, like Afrofuturism. This like Indigenous meets ultra modern is awesome. And
I'll give him a follow right now.
Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah, you got to look at his work. Check him out.
Yeah, wow. I'll have to spend the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just an overwhelming amount of, like, I spent half my time talking about Aboriginal Australian artists, but like, there are artists of every creed.
You will love some of his work. He does some very subtle. He does some very sublime. Yeah, some really.
I can already see by his his profile and background picture that it's something that I'll be into. So I'll have to definitely give him a proper follow.
You will definitely like. You would definitely like him.
Yeah.
But that's what I say. Like when your other people come, like have them come to me and I'll interview them. It'd be cool too. Sometime is like maybe just like have a little chat and then just show like Australian artists that you like. It doesn't even have to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to follow up again in the future and like because again, like I spoke to another Indigenous artist. Again, he's a digital artist. He's only in like the IRL space, like. But he would like to enter the NFT space. And again, it's just like, where do you start? What do you do? And I'd love to bring him in to the space because I actually never met him, but I really like his art and he's a really good guy. So I have to introduce him to the space. And then there's probably, like I might even mention to the Crypto Mo, like you might be like, if you've got time and if you're ever interested, like the artists, because they're only featuring 14 artists for the next 10 weeks.
Wow.
They might, that might be a collaboration there with you or something. Anyway, but that's.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
But I'll bring that up with them anyway. They're really, I just think they're good people.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stop the recordings. I want to ask you about sea turtles. Because I keep having questions about sea turtles and I don't know. I'm sure you know something about it. But thanks for showing your work. Your work is just gorgeous. How have you sold out your collection or you just put it up, right? It's brand new, right?
No, I only put it up like a week ago. One piece has sold. Again, like I haven't really put much effort into again, I find it hard to shill myself.
I
You know, like
know, but
that
will.
self
But
promotion is.
this other person, Freakland Mama, who I interviewed, Iranian, she's very good, and so she was like so nervous about her collection, and she wrote me, she's like, my collection sold out 3 minutes. Like, when you just have, you'll get like 1 or 2 collectors. Like, I would totally buy your work. I'm not really buying NFTs at the moment, but luckily,
That's all. I appreciate that you like the work.
I'll be like a rich metaverse. I can buy whatever I want, but your work, somebody will definitely buy it, just like Afro.
Oh yeah, look, and if someone stumbles across it and likes it, job done for me.
It is gorgeous. Have you seen? Let me just tell you real quick, because I got on Foundation, but I haven't put any work up there, so I was like clicking around to see what artists were on there, and it's a little different because there's a little bit more fine art there. But the #1 artist, her name is Jenny Sark. She's a famous artist, but her work
is this an NFT platform?
Yeah, it's called Foundation. Her work is great. She's the #1 artist, and your work also does remind me of her work, which is awesome. Yeah.
I'll have to look, because again, I'm pretty new in this. Like, I mean, I've been in the crypto world for a while, but
I think it's Jenny Stark or Jenny Stark. But yeah, her NFTs are really cool. I like yours better. Sorry, Jenny, but hers are really awesome too. But hers are a little bit more fun, like cool shapes that are vibrating.
Yeah.
Hers is more like painting, which is more to my liking, but her work is super cool, and she's an in real life artist as well. But
awesome. I'll have to check her out too.
Check her out. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll hopefully follow up, and good luck on your endeavors.
Yeah, no, and you too. I'm a lot. Yeah, we'll have to definitely touch base again.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
For real.